the premiere episode of the Uncivilized Arts podcast. This is something that I've been working on and trying to plan out for a while. I've dibbled and dabbled in the podcast world for a while before this, a few things here and there, but this is the first time that I'm attempting to do an actual proper podcast. And here it is, Uncivilized Art. And as you can see on the screen, if you are indeed watching, if you're listening, you won't see it, but maybe you can see it in one of the description somewhere. But it's a geek and internet culture podcast. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Who am I? What does that mean? So yeah, this is the first episode, and there's a bunch of things I want to talk about. The main thing I want to talk about is the tweet that David Jaffe made, I think a few weeks ago now, when he put out that we asked a question, if a game tasked you with going into a nightclub and shooting up minorities, blacks, Asians, Jewish people, Muslims, nightclub full of minorities, and you did that and you get an easy trophy out of it. Would you do it? And that question got a lot of responses, and not all positive responses. A lot of people had some things to say about that. And I saw that, and well, we'll talk about that, so stay tuned for that. By the way, there will be time links in the description for anybody who wants to skip around. I'm not sure how long these episodes are going to be, but they're probably going to be a little bit lengthy, and I appreciate that everybody's got time to listen to the whole thing. Hopefully you do have time to listen to the whole thing, but if not, then there'll be time links in the description to skip around if you need to. And at some point, I'll try and put some clips up on the YouTubes and that kind of thing as well. But yeah, if you can listen to the whole thing, that'd be great. I love you long time and all of that. In fact, if you got that reference, put it in the comments. But yeah, as this is the first episode, I do want to kind of introduce it a little bit, let you know who I am, let you know what I plan on doing this and all that kind of stuff. And then we'll get into the sort of main parts of the different things I want to talk about over the course of this episode. So yeah, my name is Boomer Hazan, although I go by Bandit Haze in the online space. I am a content creator. I've been a content creator on YouTube for a while, doing various things, vlogging, comedy. I do have a movie channel as well. So yeah, for any geeks out there, if you like movies, check out my movie channel. It's called Haze's Movie Room. I talk about films in a way that, how can I describe it? I'll say that I mostly take the piss out of movies with that. I'm mostly nitpicking movies, but hopefully making some good points as well. So if you like things like Cinema Sins or what's the other one? Screen Junkies, when they do the honest trailers, that kind of stuff. Nitpicking, kind of like that, but also trying to make some good points and some interesting points as well. So I'm not just taking the piss. I'm not just dumping on these movies for the silly things that they do. But yeah, I'm mostly talking about comic book movies, action movies, that sort of thing. But yeah, check that out. So let me know what you think of it. And yeah, I have a comedy channel. I post mostly like sort of short comedy clips, and on TikTok and Instagram. I'm mostly doing it on these days, and a vlog channel as well, where I vlog, right? Talk about what's going on and just random videos, reactions, stuff like that. Just having some fun with that. Live stream as well. I do live stream a little bit on Twitch, maybe not as much as I probably should be, but every now and then I jump on Twitch and do a live stream there. So yeah, a bunch of things that I've been doing, little bits here and there over the years. When it comes to creativity, though, I say my biggest background is poetry. I was on the London poetry circuit for like 10 years or so, give or take, for a while. Not so much these days, but I do kind of dibble and dabble in writing a little bit here and there, though I haven't actually performed poetry for a long time. But yeah, I spent many years on the London poetry circuit, and I feel like I did pretty okay with it while my time was there. I managed to perform poetry in a few different cities around the world, which is awesome. Got featured in some places, won a few competitions as well. So yeah, met some amazing people. Some of which I'm still in contact with. So yeah, definitely had a great time being on the poetry circuit. But as time went on, I just kind of felt like the London poetry scene just wasn't really for me anymore. And maybe, in fact, not even just maybe, a lot of it was just down to my own BS, and maybe stuff that I'll get into at another time. But yeah, the end result was I just wasn't really on the poetry scene as much, but I still kind of wrote a little bit, and I still do kind of write a little bit these days. In fact, speaking of poetry, I do actually have a spoken word album out on Bandcamp, and we're going to talk a little bit about Bandcamp in a while. But yeah, for anybody who wants to hear my spoken word poetry album, you can listen to it free on Bandcamp. And yeah, I'll drop a link in the description for that as well. But yeah, that is a little bit about who I is. But the Uncivilized Art podcast. We're going to be talking about games. We're going to be talking about movies. We're going to be talking about geek culture and internet culture and maybe things that have gone viral and memes and stuff like that, you know, all that cool stuff that we like to talk about. But hopefully what separates this a little bit, and I have to use that a bit carefully when I say hopefully what separates this a little bit, because I recognize that I do not hear every single podcast that is out there. I listen to a bunch, but I'm sure there's many that I've never even heard of, just as I'm sure there's many that you've never heard of, just as I'm sure there's podcasts and not everybody's going to hear about it. It just is what it is. So I'm not going to say that I'm the only one talking about geek stuff in this way. But personally, in my experience, at least listening to podcasts, it's not something that I hear a whole lot of. And it's something that I want to do on a consistent basis and trying to go a little bit deeper with these subjects, trying to go a little bit below the surface, talk about, what things mean or what the intended experience was, and what do we do with that? How do we incorporate these things in our lives? What do we take from these things? It's one thing to say that you liked a game and you thought this was a really cool feature, and, they liked when the game did this and the movie did that, but what does that mean for us? And I want to try and go a little bit deeper with these things. So, yeah, hopefully you guys will stick around for that kind of stuff. But let me know, suggestions, questions, suggestions, recommendations, drop them in the comments, send them through and I'll see what I can do. And, we can go from there and hopefully grow together. Yeah, I do plan on having guests as well from time to time. Hopefully I'm going to have some regular guests, some people that you might see pop up every now and then, depending on schedules and stuff like that. And I'll also want to have some not so regular guests. People might just come in like one-off or once, maybe get them back. We'll see how that goes. And those are going to be people who are filmmakers, game developers, content creators, other geeks, right? And just people who I feel are interested. I would say that not every guest I'm going to try and get on. And of course, it's going to depend on whether they want to do it and their schedule and stuff like that. But not every guest that I'm going to attempt to get on is going to be somebody who is, say, directly related to, the geek world and movies and games and that kind of thing. There may be somebody who is, mostly sort of outside that. But, I do feel like a lot of stuff is connected. Like one of the lessons that I learned through my time on poetry is that how connected things are when it comes to creativity, like from games to poetry to movies. There's a lot of inspiration that goes from one to the other, and things that you can take from one field and incorporate into another field. So they're not all going to be directly related to what we talk about mostly on this podcast, but yeah, there'll be some connection some way, or maybe I don't know, they'll just be cool people and with interesting things to say about something, and that's cool too, right? So yeah, this episode is premiere episode. I decided to do it without the camera. Sometimes I'm gonna have my camera on, sometimes I might have it off. It's just gonna depend mostly on where I am. I think for the first at least few months or so, there's going to be some, ups and downs and things like that as things get settled. And I'm not always going to be in a place that has a, shall we say, aesthetic background. And if I'm doing it on my own, like I think a lot of these podcasts, at least for the early parts, I'm probably going to be on my own. If I'm doing it on my own, I'll probably turn the camera off for most of those as well, just anyway. But yeah, sometimes I'll have it on, sometimes I'll have it off. I'm always going to try and have some visual things for the people watching on YouTube. Oh yeah, we're going to be on YouTube. And Spotify, possibly on other podcast platforms as well, but yeah, still trying to get that sorted. So again, ups and downs, we're in early stages, and the way I intend on doing it is that I'll record them without edits. I mean, it's not going to be live, at least not now. Maybe in the future I might do some live stuff, but it's going to be recorded as if it's live, so there's going to be no cuts or edits and stuff. I'm just going to press record, start talking, and hope for the best. That's pretty much what it is. And hopefully that comes out in something that is pleasing to your eyes and ears, or ears if you're just ears if you are listening on Spotify or any of the other podcast platforms that we might be on as well. All right, so I think that about covers it for just introducing myself and this podcast. So let's get into kind of some of the main stuff that I want to do. So the general kind of podcast formats, I think, for at least for now, I'm going to talk a little bit about things I've been doing, like games and movies and stuff that I've been watching, and get into some of the topics. So like I said, the main thing I want to talk about is the David Jaffe tweet, but I also want to talk about Kirsten Dunst has made some comments about Spider-Man, Disney getting the Netflix Marvel shows, Epic acquiring Bandcamp, Neighbours. Talk about Neighbours. I know it's not quite related to the geek world. Well, kind of is, kind of isn't, but you'll see what I mean. TikTok, because we're going to talk about TikTok, and then David Jaffe. So like I said, there are going to be links, time links in the description if you want to skip around. But if not, then we'll just talk and go through the whole thing. And questions, suggestions, comments. If I make a mistake, like I say, I'm recording this, no edits. I'm not claiming to be any kind of expert and know it all or anything like that. So I might get something wrong. I might make a mistake. There might be things that I've missed or didn't consider. Please let me know. It's all good. All right. So, but let me just talk about a little bit about what I've been playing and watching recently. So, this is not even a recent show, by the way. This is an old show from the 90s. It is called Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now, I'm sure lots of you guys have heard of this show. I knew about this show back when it came on. Oh, by the way, if you hear some noises in the background, it's either I'm sipping coffee or something went off somewhere. Just consider it a special effect. We'll just say it's a special effect, okay? If you hear any background noises, assume it's a special effect. No, we'll just go with that. It's a special effect. It might sound a bit weird, depending on how loud my neighbors get. Just consider it a special effect. It's a special effect. That's what we're going with. It's a special effect. All right. I'm either sipping coffee or it's a special effect. All right, cool. All right, so Buffy the Vampire Slayer came on in 1997 originally, and I knew about it. It was a popular show at the time, but it just never looked that appealing to me. It never looked like something that I'd care about, and so I never watched it. And even when Angel came out, that kind of looked like, oh yeah, Buffy, but for boys. That's the impression I got of it anyway. Like I said, I never actually watched Buffy, but it just came across as something like, oh, Buffy, I guess Buffy's for girls and Angel is for boys or something like that. That's my mindset at that time. But again, it just didn't look that interesting to me. And bear in mind that I do like horror. I do like, vampires, and I'm very much into that kind of thing. But I'm not into it in the biggest way, but certainly into it in a way more than most people, I'd say. But even still, it just did not appeal to me for whatever reason at the time. It just didn't look like something I'd care about. So I never watched Buffy, never watched Angel, and never really thought about it after that. I knew a little bit about the show, of course, because like I said, it was a popular show, but mostly just didn't pay any attention. Recently, though, it was recommended that I check it out, maybe some months back, and it was on Amazon Prime at the time, so I did watch a few episodes, and I just thought, and that was it. Amazon ended up taking it off their platform, and you had to pay to watch the rest of it. Like, when sometimes you have it as part of the Prime, but they take it off Prime. Not only way you can watch it is, but if you buy the episodes or buy the seasons, and I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. But then just in the last maybe couple of weeks, at least the last few weeks that I know of, possibly earlier than that, but the last few weeks that I know of, it was on Disney Plus. And I thought, no, maybe I'll give it another try. It's been recommended. At this point, it's been recommended by a few people. First was recommended by one person. By the time it was on Disney Plus, it's been recommended by a few people. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll give it another try. So I watched the first few episodes again, and again I thought, But I watched a little bit more, and I was like, okay, maybe there's something there. And I watched a little bit more, and I was like, okay, this seems to be going somewhere. And I watched a little bit more, and you know what? Buffy the Vampire Slayer, let me tell you, if you don't know about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it is awesome. Okay, it is pretty damn good. I mean, it is a bit of a slow start to begin with, and I get that, this day and age, that's difficult because like it's so much choice, so many TV shows, like are maybe only like 10 episodes, 8, 9, 10 episodes now, and there's so much to choose from Netflix, Apple to Hulu to, well, we don't get Hulu in the UK, but my American friends get Hulu, HBO Max you guys get as well. We don't get that, but there's still a lot of choices, which part of the world you're in. There's a lot of choices, a lot of different platforms, plus the regular TV shows. So I get it. It's hard to get into something that has a slow start. But yeah, if you have the time and the patience, then check out Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Season 1, I was really impressed with. It was really cool. Definitely 90s cheese. Definitely allow for some 90s cheese because it is very much a 90s show. So you definitely got to allow for some 90s cheese and the way things were done back then. But it's a pretty good show. At least the first season. I haven't started the second season yet, but I've been told the second season might be a little bit hit and miss. And apparently the third season onwards is where it like really excels. So I'm looking forward to getting into it, starting season 2 at some point. But so far, season 1 it's 12 episodes in season 1, and it goes 22 episodes or 20 something episodes per season after that. But the 12 episodes for season 1, I've got to give him props, man. Yeah, like I said, it's a bit of a slow burner, sort of a slow start. But yeah, once it gets going, once it really kind of finds its feet, it doesn't quite hit the ground running like maybe some more modern shows would these days. But like I said, if you've got the time, you've got the patience, check out Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It is on Disney Plus. I sound like an advert a little bit right now, but hey, listen, if it's good, I'm gonna recommend it. That's how I see it. I am not sponsored by Disney or anybody for that matter, but who knows? Maybe one day we will be. We'll see how that goes. I've been playing Halo Infinite, which is pretty cool. I've mostly been playing the campaign. I did play the multiplayer, which I was really digging, but I decided to concentrate most on the campaign for now. And I'm really digging that game. I have Game Pass, so I feel like Game Pass is just one of the best deals, or if not the best deal in gaming right now. And I know a lot of people agree with me, and also I know a lot of people don't like Game Pass as well. But hey, I'm not here to argue. I'm just saying I feel like Game Pass is pretty awesome for what you get, and Halo Infinite is a pretty damn good game. I'm not sure where I am. I've been playing it for a while. Been playing kind of like little bit by little bit for a while, and it's pretty cool. But I have no idea how far I am in the game. I got to a part where I think I'm in a spire. You had to collect these like beacons, these 4 beacons or something, and then you go to Spire. So I'm in that right now, and I guess I'm working my way through that. There's probably a boss somewhere at the end, like a Harbinger. I don't know if it's a Harbinger. Maybe it's another boss. Maybe you fight a Harbinger somewhere. Maybe don't fight a Harbinger. Or I don't know. I've not completed it yet, but that's about where I am in this Spire thing. I did a few of the side missions as well, but yeah, definitely digging that game. Also played Gears of War Judgment. It's an old game from like 2013. Gears of War Judgment. So I didn't play it back when it came out. In fact, if I remember correctly, and some of you guys who might have played it back when it came out, maybe you can let me know. But if I remember correctly, Gears of War Judgment didn't hit well when it came out. Like I seem to remember people not liking it so much. There was something about it. I can't, like I say, it's a while ago, 2013, and I didn't actually play it then. But I seem to have a memory of people not liking this game. Now, I don't know, maybe I would have thought differently had I played it back in 2013. I will say that playing it in 2022, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. I mean, it's definitely a different way of doing the Gears games. Like, it's a bit more like very clear sections, and some of the control mechanics are a bit different as well. I like that they have different characters, and as you play for different characters, they got their different testimonials of what happened, but ultimately it's all kind of leading the same way. It's not like super deep, and let's be honest, like it's not like they're trying to do like some multi-layered, at least I didn't get that impression. Maybe if you really get into it, but from my playthrough, it didn't seem like they're trying to do anything too deep, too multi-layered with the story or anything like that, but just have a cool new take on the Gears games. It's the way you throw grenades is a little bit different, and that kind of thing. And so yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. I liked it. I don't know if I'd call it a must play. No, I wouldn't call it a must play. But if you got the time, it's on Game Pass. So if you got Game Pass, you don't got to pay any extra for it. If you had to buy it though, I mean, you could probably get it real cheap, I imagine, at this point. So yeah, give it worth trying out. If you didn't play it back in 2013, maybe pick it up someplace dirt cheap and There you go from there. See what you think of it. And another game I've been playing called Bloodroot, which I've never heard of before. In fact, let me check real quick when this game would have come out, because let me see here real quick. Bloodroot. I should put Bloodroot game because something else just showed up. Here you go. Bloodroot video game. So the Bloodroot video game, in fact, let me move over to this so you can see it on the YouTubes. If you're watching on YouTubes, if you're not, I'll just describe it. I'm just looking at a search result for Bloodroot. So this game came out in 2020, so February 2020, so about a year ago then, I've not heard of it, but it's a pretty cool game. What I like about it, it's like, it's one-hit kills. You hit the enemy once, they die. They hit you once, you die. And yeah, it sounds a bit like, right? When you hear about it, if you describe it that way, that's what I feel like, okay. But, I tried it out, and it definitely makes for some really cool game mechanics in how you handle the game, and definitely makes for some moments where you're like, so close, So, yeah, if you haven't tried Bloodroot, yeah, check that out. There could be, it's on Steam, it's on, well, if you play games, you know where to find games. But I'm on Game Pass with all my games, well, not all, but most of my games these days, I'm on Game Pass, so because I'm kind of a cheapskate when it comes to that sort of thing. I pay my £15. No, what do I pay, actually? I pay $10.99. I pay $10.99 a month for Game Pass, £10.99 per month for Game Pass, and yeah, I play Halo Infinite. I just finished Gears of War, Judgement, and I'm playing Bloodroot. Yeah, and there you go. So that's what I've been doing. Let's get into some other stuff now. So the first thing I want to talk about, let me put this on screen so you can see if you're watching, but if you're not, it is Spider-Man's Kirsten Dunst addresses No Way Home absence. And I should probably point out, if it's not obvious, there might be some spoilers ahead. So if you haven't seen Spider-Man No Way Home, you might want to take use of those links, those time links. You just might. But yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home, Kirsten Dunst was not in Spider-Man No Way Home. And, the whole thing was that Doctor Strange cast a spell, and as he cast a spell, Peter Parker kept interrupting him, and then by the end of it, just messed up everything, and it brought in people from different Spider-Man universes, which is why Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were there, along with Dr. Octopus, or Dr. Octavius rather, Electro, the other guys. How can I forget? Green Goblin, of course, who's amazing, right? Willem Dafoe was incredible in the first Spider-Man movie as Green Goblin. He was absolutely incredible. This one in No Way Home was, he excelled. And if you've seen the movie, then you know what I'm talking about. He excelled. He was incredible before. He was amazing. Pun intended. Well, actually, it wasn't intended, but I'm going to take it anyway. I didn't intend that pun. It just kind of came out. But you know what? I'm going to run with it. I'm going to act like I intended it. Anyway. It was amazing what he did in his performance in No Way Home. And I'm personally glad that I avoided as many spoilers as possible. I'm also glad that in the promotional stuff, they didn't put Green Goblin in it much. Like they had Dr. Octavius and his, tentacles and that kind of stuff in the adverts. So I'm glad they didn't put the Green Goblin in as much of the promotion, at least not the ones I saw, because it just allowed for that kind of surprise of how much he's featured in it and how awesome he is in that movie. But anyway, Kirsten Dunst and Gwen Stacy, what I'm talking about, Emma Stone, are not in this movie. Loads of people, of course, are not in this movie. Like, most people in the world are not in this movie, if you want to get technical. But notable absences, Kirsten Dunst was not there. And why was she not there? She's somebody who knows Spider-Man. Why was Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy not there as somebody who knows Spider-Man? Since they're clearly bringing people back from the dead as well, it's like, why not? And to be honest, this article is a bit misleading in its title. She doesn't technically address it, but she does say something quite interesting, where she says that, she hasn't been approached to do any Spider-Man movies, but now that the multiverse is opened up, it's not impossible. So could we be seeing Kirsten Dunst in future Spider-Man movies? Possibly. There's a kind of like a rumor started by Kirsten herself, by the looks of it, to be honest with you. But even still, it's an interesting thing. Could we be seeing Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane in the future Spider-Man movie, or any Marvel MCU movie for that matter? It's possible. And if that's possible, then what else is possible? See, the thing about the multiverse is that, and I'm sure people at Marvel and Disney have thought about this. Well, I kind of assume they have. But when you go into that area, you open up so many potential options as to what you can do. And that's both a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, it's a good thing because we can get cool stuff like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire turning up, and that's awesome. We can even get cool stuff like possibly Mary Jane showing up, or Gwen Stacy showing up, or who knows, even Italian Spider-Man, we can only hope, might just show up in the MC movie. I would love it if Italian Spider-Man showed up in the MC movie. Please, whoever, if you know somebody at Marvel, if you work at Marvel, if I don't care if you're the cleaner, whatever you can do to get it to Kevin Feige that we want. At least I want. I don't know what if you want it. I want it. Italian Spider-Man. Let me show you what I'm talking about real quick for those who don't know. Italian Spider-Man. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to show you real quick. Italian Spider-Man. This is Italian Spider-Man. I'm going to show it. For those who are listening, let me try and describe it as best as I can. It is a parody. It is an absolute piss take. It is super cheesy. It is a dude. He's got a mustache. He smokes cigarettes, and he just punches people out. But yeah, Kevin Feige. I want to say if you're listening. I know it's a big if. It's a massive if. But if you're listening, or if you're not listening, if anybody could get a message to Kevin Feige, Italian Spider-Man needs to show up in the MCU. We need to give this man his flowers. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that the possibilities are literally endless. And that's a good thing because you could get some cool cameos. But it's also a bad thing in the sense that ultimately every kind of situation can be easily resolved. Oh, it's the multiverse. Or even like with time travel to extent as well. Time travel. You know what I mean? And I think when you do that, the danger is that it almost becomes too unlimited. And when you have any kind of storytelling in the realms of unlimited, it's like, where is the danger? It's like, for example, one of the issues I've always had with Superman is that he was just too powerful. And yes, I know there's kryptonite, but kryptonite is not that easy to get. And so it's like, who's he going against? People. He's just fighting regular people. He's just too powerful. One punch, you're gone. I feel like when you create something where so many possibilities could be explained through that one thing or a couple of things, say, because the time travel came out, and it did play some lips with the time travel, to be fair, but still, it's a bit broad. So you got time travel, you got multiverse, and you got so many endless things that could happen in that. The danger becomes everything is now easily explainable. Oh, why wasn't that person here? Multiverse. Oh, it actually turns out this happened because the multiverse technically was always there. It wasn't just like it just happened. There was always multiple universes. It's just only now they've been able to travel between multiple universes. So it's something that you could always kind of go back and say, see, this thing that was happening in this movie at, back in whatever it was, actually that was something from a different universe that's coming over and everything's explained. So I'm sure the people at Marvel and Disney have thought about that sort of stuff. At least I hope they have. But yeah, as cool as this is, as amazing as it could be to have different characters from different Spider-Men Spider-Man, Spider-Man, we go with that. Spider-Man movies showing up and how awesome that can be, especially as a fan seeing that sort of stuff. It's amazing, right? It's incredible. Like I was in a cinema, and apparently, Charlie, the dude from Daredevil. Charlie Cox, there you go. Apparently, Charlie Cox went to the cinema to watch it with his wife, and he was hoping for like a big reaction when he showed up, and there was not. That was not the case in my cinema, dude. So I don't know if you went to the wrong cinema. I don't know. Or maybe it's because I'm just gonna guess. Maybe he turned up with the Matt Murdock sunglasses on. Everybody thought he might be blind, so they figured, well, let's not make too much noise, because he's relying on his ears to hear things. Let's not make too much noise for the blind guy. Let him just let's keep it peaceful for him. And they just thought, just keep it quiet. Maybe that's a possibility. Probably not though. Probably not. But yeah, I mean, in my cinema, there was noise when he came on. There was noise when Andrew Goff when he turned up out of silhouette. Even though, like I said, I avoided a lot of the spoilers, but there's certain things that kind of seep through the cracks, and I don't know, there's rumors going around. So even though knowing that he was probably most likely going to show up when he did, he just couldn't help but make some noise, man. Make some noise. So I don't know. Maybe I guess he just went to the wrong cinema to watch it in. But there was definitely some noise in the cinema that I went to, and I think some other people cinemas made some noise too. So yeah, it is a cool thing when these characters show up. But yeah, I just hope that it doesn't get to the point where it's just so unrestricted that everything just becomes either too easily explainable, and it's like there's no real danger, there's no real. Like I said, I'm sure they thought about it stuff, and certainly looking at things like what they did with Loki. It looks like I'm sure they thought about it, but at the same time, it's like, let's not. What's the word? Mary Sue the whole thing. You know what I mean? Let's not. What's the other one? Mary Sue, and there's Charlie Stew. Is someone could correct me, but I'm sure there's Mary Sue, and then there's the boy version. But yeah, let's not do that. Let's not do that, because they've done something absolutely incredible with the Marvel Cinematic Universe from, was it Phase 1 to Phase 3? I might be getting phases wrong, but from the very first Iron Man or the Incredible Hulk, if you technically want to start it there, all the way up to Avengers Endgame, that whole journey was epic. It was epic, and yeah, it could this next set of movies that we're in now, all up until the next big bad, whenever that may come. I know there's a lot of people already, well, maybe not a lot, but certainly some people already who already feel like there's no way they can top what they did. I'm hoping, it'd be difficult, but I'm hoping they can. But then you see things like this and it's like, it's cool, it's awesome, but. So yeah, it's a cool thing. It's a cool thing. And let's just keep hoping that it stays a cool thing. But yeah, who knows? Maybe she'll turn up, maybe she won't, but whatever they do, yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing I want to talk about, and this is really sticking with Marvel and Netflix. So, and Charlie Cox for that matter as well. Actually, so Netflix Marvel series landing on Disney Plus March 16th, which, as of time of recording, that is about week and a half-ish away. So Disney Plus gains big in the wake of Netflix losing Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and more. So Netflix, back in whatever that was, back some years back, they had a deal with Marvel to make some series, and I'm sure you guys know this already, but yeah, they did Daredevil, which was incredible. I was so pissed when that got cancelled. That was the one that pissed me off the most, actually, especially the way season 3 ended with Bullseye, and mate, how did you cancel it there? How? Anyway, let me calm down. Yeah, so it was Daredevil, there was Luke Cage, there was Jessica Jones and Iron Fist. And the Punisher as well, which I believe wasn't part of the original deal, but that kind of came afterwards after John the Punisher. Not John Travolta. Well, John Travolta wasn't a Punisher movie, actually. John Bernthal, I'm looking for. John Travolta was in the Punisher movie. He wasn't the Punisher, but he was in the 2004 Punisher film. But anyway, John Bernthal as a Punisher, he turned up in Daredevil, and he was incredible. And based off of that, this is my understanding. I may be wrong. I'm not working for Netflix or Marvel, unfortunately. But yeah, my understanding is that because of that, and because of the strong response that people had to him being there, that show came about. But in any case, it was part of it. And it was awesome, by the way. They were all awesome, except for Iron Fist. Let's keep it all the way 100. Iron Fist was terrible. And I don't like to call these things, I really don't, understand, please. I don't like to call any piece of entertainment or art terrible, because I truly believe that there's no such thing as a rubbish movie, no such thing as a rubbish game, no such thing as a rubbish song, rubbish, anything like that. It's just things that speak to you on a certain level that just resonates with you, and then there's things that don't. But Iron Fist, oh my days, what were you thinking? Like, come on, that I am what's his face from Kung Lung? It's like, dude, was it Danny Rand from Kung Lung? Dude, come on, man. Like when that nobody cared when that got cancelled. Put it that way, nobody cared. Well, maybe the people who were actually on the show, they might have, I guess, but nobody cared when that got cancelled. When they announced Jessica Jones, I liked Jessica Jones. That was a good show. I was pissed when they announced Luke Cage. To be fair, I was like, I liked the show, I really did, but I kind of understood why it would have got the axe, because I mean, let's keep it real. Luke Cage was probably not even probably, at least in my opinion, Luke Cage was the least important, or not least important, what I'm looking for, least interesting, excuse me. He was the least interesting character in his own TV show. And that's the same for season 1 and season 2, especially season 2. Especially season 2, he was by far the least interesting thing on that show. And his whole involvement of season 2 could have been completely erased, and you'd still have pretty much the same story. So I liked it. I thought what they did was really cool and really awesome. Like the story that they told, it was a great story. But I was like, yeah, I get it. I get it. Daredevil, like I said before, I was just pissed when that got cancelled. But in the end, they all got cancelled. And for the longest time, it's been what's going to happen now. Disney Plus is like, yeah, we're going to put them on. But here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to get into with this, is that, what does this mean? Because when they were originally on Netflix, they were kind of part of the MCU. Kind of. Because I remember they were saying things like the big green guy, and they'll make these kind of very vague references to the Avengers and things like that. So they were kind of part of MCU, but not fully. And certainly in the MCU movies, they never mentioned Netflix at all, the Netflix stuff at all. But there were these references that will come up every now and then. So they were kind of attached to it, but not quite. But then, Vincent D'Onofrio, I've just said his name wrong, my bad. Vincent D'Onofrio, excuse me, D'Onofrio, who played the Kingpin. And by the way, he's a fantastic actor. If you've not seen Full Metal Jacket, see Full Metal Jacket. Great film, amazing film. He plays Private Pyle, I believe, in that movie. Private Pyle, yeah, in that movie, 1987 movie, Full Metal Jacket, great film. But yeah, he showed up in Hawkeye, right, as the same version, well, presumably at least the same version of Kingpin that he's been playing in the Daredevil series, and then Charlie Cox shows up as Matt Murdock in the Spider-Man No Way Home movie. So it's like, okay, they're possibly just taking some of the characters, but are their Netflix backstories still intact? Now, those Netflix stories are on Disney, or about to be on Disney Plus, and So what does that mean? Are these officially part of MCU? Because if they are, that is awesome. That is awesome, because we could be seeing some really epic stuff. And especially, I mean, Luke Cage, I feel like there's so much that could be done with Luke Cage that just wasn't, like I said, I enjoyed the show, but the character was so underserved in those series. And I think there's a lot you can do with a character like Luke Cage, especially in Spider-Man movies, because Spider-Man is more of a grounded superhero in the sense that, yeah, he does fight the aliens from time to time, but he is, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And it's effectively No Way Home was kind of like a reboot, if you will, of Spider-Man. If with the whole memory wipe thing, it's kind of like a soft reboot of Spider-Man. So like he could be a bit more grounded and a bit more, local. And so people like Luke Cage can fit very well into that. And I feel like once you can incorporate Luke Cage into a Spider-Man movie, then there's so much you can do with that character in terms of building him up to his own thing. And the Punisher series, if that is officially part of MCU, then what could that mean for things like Blade? Because Blade is, I should say, going to be PG. The next Blade movie has been announced that it's going to be PG. But the Punisher series, it was pretty violent. I mean, I just hit the wrong button, by the way. Don't worry. If you're watching on YouTube, yeah. Okay. Just hit the wrong button, my bad. Teething problems. With teething problems, but we'll get there. Yeah, the Punisher series, it was pretty violent. I remember there was at least one, possibly two F-bombs in that. At least one, possibly two F-bombs. So if this is now officially part of the MCU, does that mean that we can get maybe more harder versions, or are they gonna, PG that too? You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with the PG. I know a lot of people have an issue with the PG rating. I feel like the PG rating is fine personally. That being said, I do like my violence when it comes to movies. In movies, not in real life, let me be clear on that. I like violence in movies, violence in video games. And, I do like to see that kind of stuff. I feel like you can do some really cool stuff with the PG rating, but if this is now part of the MCU, can we get more? Or they, you know what I mean? So it's a bit unclear at the moment of what is happening, what it means. But it could mean possibly some changes come into the MCU to incorporate these characters, or it could mean some changes are coming to incorporate these characters. You know what I mean? But yeah, this is pretty cool news for me, and I'll be interested to see what it means and where it goes from here. But let's talk about the next thing now. And the next thing I want to talk about is Epic Games acquiring music platform Bandcamp. Now, Bandcamp, I guess they're not as big as things like Spotify and Apple Music and, that sort of thing, but they've been around a while. And they are a pretty big company, especially when it comes to indie musicians. A lot of independent musicians would use Bandcamp to sell their music because it supports independent art. Well, it supports all artists, really, but it's especially useful for independent artists to sell their music because most of the revenue would go to the artist rather than to where Spotify take a massive cut and give the artist like 3/4 of a penny or something like that. Whereas Bandcamp, when you buy a single or an album, whatever you buy, a lot of times you can choose your own price, and things range from free to some things be like a minimum, £5, but then you could add more on top of it. And you might be thinking, wait a minute, if I don't have to pay more than £5, why would I pay more than £5? Apparently, a lot of people do because a big part of their money, I've read this somewhere, a big part of artists' money comes from people choosing to pay more than they have to. And that includes stuff that has a minimum price and stuff that you can literally get for free if you wanted to. You can put 0.00 and you can still download the album for free, and you won't get any emails about, you got to pay for this, but you won't. It's just yours. Well, not yours, so you don't own the rights to it, but yours to listen to as much as you want for free. Or you can put some money down and choose to donate, and people do. I've done that plenty of times on Bandcamp with artists. So I know it sounds about why would you if you can get it for free, but when it comes to supporting artists, especially independent artists, I feel like a lot of people like myself, like, yeah, I want to support this artist and I want to give them something. And especially times like we don't always have a lot of money. So the fact that you can just be like, you know what, this is what I could afford right now, and do that. Some people pay hundreds for stuff that you could get for free. Unfortunately, nobody's done that with my album, but hey, there's still time. There's still time. I do have an album on Bandcamp. You can listen to it for free. You can download it for free if you want to, or you can drop a few pennies if you want. Drop a few pennies, or a few thousands if you want. Yes, no pressure, no pressure. But yeah, here's what I want to talk about this, because when I saw this, I thought this is really cool. I actually thought this was really cool news, because my thoughts were that, at least the way I was thinking, is that this could mean that we could get more opportunities for independent musicians to be featured in video games, and that gets their music out to more people. That's what I was thinking, because it does say that, at least for now, and of course these things could always change in the future, I know, but at least for now, Bandcamp is still operating in the same way that it has been, since it started. So it's still artist first, and still focus on supporting artists. But if it's under Epic, then, I mean, look, independent artists or any artist could always get their music in video games. It's not like you couldn't do it before, I know. But if they're under Epic, could that mean that the avenue to getting your music into a video game or into something bigger where it has a potentially wider reach, that avenue and that path can be made a whole lot easier when it is the company itself is all under the same roof, all under the same banner? But I did see a tweet today, actually, that, I mean, it's all wait and see right now, of course, but I did see a tweet today by Chipsell, who is one of my favorite independent artists. If you don't know Chipsell, definitely check out Chipsell. Let me see if I can find this tweet for the people watching on the YouTubes real quick. Let me just run up my Twitter and type in Chipsell. Chipsell is a chiptune musician, by the way. I don't know, you might be able to tell from the name, Chipsell, or maybe not, maybe you've heard of her. Actually, she composed, she has a lot of video game music, and if you could see here in the profile, it says that she composed music for Super Hexagon, River City Girls, Dicey Dungeons, Cadence of Hyrule DLC. So yeah, she does a lot of video game music as well, and you've probably heard some of her music and just didn't even know it was her. But yeah, awesome musician, so definitely check her out. But yeah, she did tweet about this. I guess there's a few tweets that let me try and find her one. It's down there somewhere, I'm sure. But her take on it is that she said, pleading with mega corporations on Twitter to be... No, that's not the right one. That's something else. We're just going through her Twitter right now. Here we go. So yeah, video games must be stopped. Epic Games is acquiring music platform Bandcamp. And so yeah, so this person asks, oh shit, is this bad? Emma Langford asks, oh shit, is this bad? And then Chipsell replies, I mean, hopefully not, but another monopoly owning a music platform. So there is concern with this, is what I'm trying to get at. There is concern, and in particular concern from somebody who uses Bandcamp, who is a musician and has been a musician for a while, sells her music through Bandcamp and independently. I've seen her perform live, by the way. I just want to put it out there. I've seen her perform live. Awesome. But anyway, he's been doing this for a while, and there's concern from them. So whereas I'm looking at it like, oh wow, this is cool because we can potentially see more independent artists like Chipsell or other musicians showing up in video games more, just making that whole avenue a lot easier. A person who has had their music in video games is saying, yeah, hopefully it's a good thing, but maybe not. Maybe not. So yeah, again, it's all wait and see. It's all wait and see right now. And that's the thing. You don't know until you know. And if it is that they are operating the same way as they have been, I personally, as somebody who uses Bandcamp, I'm not necessarily a professional musician, but somebody who has, buy stuff on Bandcamp and likes to support artists through Bandcamp. I feel in my mind it's more good than bad, but I guess it's one of these things where it's like, if it turns to shit, then yeah, perhaps we got to be a bit more. I think somebody said somewhere as well in one of these tweets that it could be a case of, in fact, right here it is right now. So yeah, let's not overreact, but prepare to build and or support competitors' platforms. I think that's really what a lot of these things come down to, is that when any platform starts behaving in a way that is not good, then it could be just a case of, you know what, it's been fun, but I gotta take my money somewhere else. And it'd be a massive shame if that happened to Bandcamp, because Bandcamp, from what I can tell from artists who I've spoken to, feel like it's been a massive help in getting their music out there in a place that they can make money without feeling like they have to sell their soul to some faceless, record label, that pimps them out and that kind of thing. They can just kind of do their own thing and sell their music and merchandise through this platform. And of course, Bandcamp would take their cut because everybody's going to make money too, right? But it's far more favorable. I think it's like 10% or something like that. I might be wrong on that, but the cut that Bandcamp take from the sales. In fact, if I remember correctly, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, for those who might know more or know better, I believe Bandcamp only take a cut once you make over a certain amount. I'm not sure what that certain amount is, but I think they only take a cut once you make over a certain amount, and then it's maybe 10% or whatever the percentage. But it's a small percentage compared to what Spotify would do, or the other sort of streaming platforms would do. So though Spotify could be good because loads of people use it and potentially you can get your name out there, in terms of what you make and just trying to make a living as an artist, it's difficult, whereas something like Bandcamp, it's a lot more favorable to the artist. So yeah, it'd be a massive shame if it changed its priorities. But yeah, so we'll wait and see right now. All right, so the next thing me wants to be talking about is this. So this is, I guess you could say this is a little bit different to the types of things that I'll normally be talking about on this podcast. And it is that Neighbours has been axed for good as production admits defeat. So the production company Fremantle of Neighbours has struggled to find a place to pick up their show since Channel 5 has decided to end their contract with them. And it means that after nearly 40 years, Neighbours is going to be no more. Now, some of you might be thinking, and I may be wrong on this, because honestly, I don't know how popular Neighbours is outside of the UK. I believe it's filmed in Australia. It's an Australian show. It is super popular in the UK, though. Very popular in the UK. I believe I heard somewhere that is not so popular in Australia. Somebody who's in Australia can let me know, but I believe it's not so popular in Australia. It hasn't been popular in Australia for quite a while, but it's very popular in the UK. Outside of the UK, outside of that, I don't know. So I'm guessing, possibly a lot of you might not even heard of Neighbours. You might not have heard of Neighbours. I'll tell you a little bit about it. As a soap opera, it is very cheesy. If you know anything about soap operas, yep. It's just as cheesy as that. It started in 1985. I used to watch this. It came on I remember it came on 5:35, because it was children's BBC, right? And that's where that showed all the cartoons and stuff. And then after that ended I keep saying 9. That ended 5:30, and then 5:30 was news break or news something. It was like a short news show that was kind of aimed at kids, it was a news show but named at kids, and I'll talk about currently. It doesn't matter. But then after that, 5:35 Neighbours, and yeah, so I'd watch Neighbours back in the day, and I watched it up until I think 2000. In fact, I know because it says it down here, 2008, because that's when it moved to Channel 5. It was on BBC before then it moved to Channel 5. So I remember I stopped watching it when it moved to Channel 5. It's a dumb reason, I know, but it's just kind of one of these things where I just felt like I'm I'm doing other stuff. I'm not watching TV as much anymore. There's a massive change. Maybe it's time for me to lay Neighbours down. So I guess technically I'm part of the reason why it's being cancelled now, because I wasn't watching it, and who knows, that could have factored into the reason, because that one person they needed to agree to renew the show was not there. Maybe that's the difference between Channel 5 renewing it and Channel 5 not renewing it. They were looking at the view numbers and they were just one below the view number, the view account that they needed. So who knows? That could have been a difference. I guess we'll never know now. But anyway, it was 2008 when it moved over, and that's when I stopped watching. And I kind of dibble, like I might watch a little bit here and there, but mostly wasn't really paying much attention to it. But yeah, it was definitely something that I watched for many years, and it was a great show for many years. And it, like I say, a lot you might not even heard of this show, but you most likely would have heard of some of the people who have been on this show. And it's kind of crazy to think that when I say some of these names, for those listening, you won't. It's on screen now, so if you're watching, you might see some of the names already. But for those listening, when I tell you some of these names, I promise you, I can all but guarantee that you'd be thinking, how does a show that has those people on it get cancelled? Because that's what I'm thinking. Well, let me tell you some of these names who've been in the show. Some of them were on the show for a while. Some of them only did like a couple of appearances, like 1 or 2 episodes. But let me tell you some of the names who have been on this show and then went on to do massive things. A few names here. The biggest one, I'm sure you know this one. If you don't know, you better get to know. Kylie Minogue. Kylie Minogue was on Neighbours back in I think it was her first or one of her first acting gigs, but she was on Neighbours as a regular for a while. Kylie Minogue, biggest pop star. Well, is she the biggest pop star? One of the most successful pop stars. She was the first female pop star to have a #1 album in 4 or 5 different decades. So yeah, very successful pop star. Kylie Minogue was on Neighbours. Jason Donovan was on Neighbours. Alan Dell was on Neighbours. Let me give you a few other names. Liam Hemsworth was on Neighbours. Chris Hemsworth was on Neighbours. Margot Robbie was on Neighbours. Delta Goodrem was on Neighbours. There are some people who, like I say, not all of them were mainstays. Some of them only did a few episodes. But people who got their first sort of acting gigs. Dave Bautista apparently was in an episode of Neighbours at one time as well. I read, I don't think it's in this article, but I read one other place. Yeah, in fact, it says it here, yeah. Neighbours stars who have gone big, from Kylie to Dave Bautista. WWE superstar Dave Bautista. Drax was on an episode of Neighbours. This show had so many people who, like I say, some did a while, some were on loads of episodes, some of the few episodes, but they were relatively either unknown at the time or they were just starting their careers at the time that went on to do massive things. Guy Pearce was on Neighbours. How does a show that has produced some of the biggest stars on the planet end up being cancelled? That's crazy, right? That is nuts. But alas, that's where we are. That is where we are. So, if it wasn't for Neighbours, we may not have. There'll be somebody playing Thor in the MCU, but it might not be Chris Hemsworth. We might have somebody else playing Thor if it wasn't for Neighbours. If he didn't have that to back it up, or some acting experience, or whatever it may have been. Who knows? Maybe Drax might not have happened as Dave Bautista if it wasn't. How much music we might not have heard because people made a little name for themselves and then went on to use that to promote their. Holly Valance was in Neighbours. Remember Holly Valance? Man, there's so many. A lot. There is a lot. This show has had some massive stars. In fact, let me click this. I think this one might list a bunch of them actually. But yeah, Neighbours stars who have gone big. This bad thing. From Kylie to Dave Bautista. So yeah, let me see if I get some names. Radha Mitchell. Okay, I don't know who Eliza Taylor is. My bad. I'm sure she's a nice person, but I don't know her. Bob Morley. Okay, I don't know him. I thought it said Bob Marley for a second. I was like, what? Bob Marley. It says Bob Marley, not Bob Marley. I don't think Bob Marley was on Neighbours. I don't think Bob Marley was on Neighbours. Probably not. I'm just gonna guess that he probably wasn't. I might be wrong, but I'm just gonna guess Bob Marley was not on Neighbours. But Bob Morley was. Bob Morley was. Margot Robbie. I said Margot Robbie. Yeah. Natalie Basinwaite. Alan Delwood, Liam Hemsworth, Chris Hemsworth, Dave Bautista, Holly Valance, Delta Goodrem. Oh, Natalie Imbruglia. Natalie Imbruglia was on Neighbours. Come on now. Russell Crowe. Gladiator. Robin Hood. A Beautiful... Russell Crowe. Jesse Spencer was in House. Remember House? Yeah, he was in House. He got his start on Neighbours. Well, maybe not his start, but I don't know. He was in Neighbours anyway. Said Guy Pearce. Is that it? Kylie and Jason. Yeah. Scott and Charlene. That was it. Yeah, was it Scott and Charlene? That was Kylie and Jason, because they were like a couple on the show. And there was rumors that they were a couple in real life as well. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. Maybe not. It doesn't even matter anymore. But yeah. You know what? Real quick, actually, let me tell you a quick story about Jason Donovan. Or possibly it might not be Jason Donovan, but I think it was Jason Donovan. Stephanie by the way, Stephanie McIntosh was her Neighbours as well. And this story involves Stephanie McIntosh. Big up Stephanie McIntosh real quick. So I used to do motorcycle deliveries, right? And let me clarify, I delivered using a motorcycle. I wasn't delivering the motorcycle. So if you have a courier turn up at your house, sometimes, businesses need to send things to people, other businesses, and letters and mail and things like that, and they need delivered urgent. That's what I did. So I'll pick something up, deliver it to somewhere, mostly around London, but sometimes you get deliveries outside of London and things like that. But yeah, I was delivering stuff on a motorcycle. Anyway, I get one package and I turn up to this place and it says it actually says Steph McIntosh on it. And I was watching Neighbours. Like I said, I was a big fan of Neighbours at the time, so I knew Steph McIntosh. I knew the name. Well, I knew it as Stephanie McIntosh. That was more in my mind. So I saw Steph McIntosh. It didn't really click with me right away. But I go to this place, knock the door, and like some kid answers, and I say, "I'll delivery for Steph McIntosh," and he's running off, and he goes, "Steph," and then she comes to the door, and I'm like, "Oh, Stephanie McIntosh came to the door, and I was delivering a package to her," and I was like, I you have those moments where you always feel like when you meet celebrities, you try not to. I'm going to show you guys an image for the people watching. This is Stephanie McIntosh here. For the folks watching, you can see. But yeah, when you meet celebrities, you always kind of feel like, and I've met celebrities before. It's not that I've never met celebrities before, but when you meet a celebrity, like usually it's like, oh, cool, and that's pretty much it. You keep it moving. It is rare, at least for me, that I meet somebody and I'm like, oh, and I think it's a combination of the fact that I was I was watching a lot of Neighbours at the time, massive Neighbours fan. Her character was on TV quite a lot at that time as well, on the Neighbours show quite a lot at the time as well. So she was very much fresh in my mind as somebody who I see on TV. And then there's a surprise of, like I said, I saw the name, but it didn't really click with me, and a surprise of actually seeing her in real life. So it was like, whoa! And but she was cool about it. I actually took a picture as well, which I still have somewhere. I still have it. I need to dig. I won't look for it now because I'm sure this is buried. I've got it somewhere. I didn't delete it. But yeah, she took a picture with her. But here's the thing, and this is what I mean about possibly Jason Donovan, is that I guess Stephanie McIntosh was in London at the time because she was doing some music gigs and things like that, because I did see her on TV afterwards doing some songs. So I guess that's why she was in London. But anyway, as I'm leaving, I turn around and I'm saying bye and everything else, right? And I see this guy standing by the door. And I looked at him and I thought, you look kind of familiar. But then I understand. These things should have clicked for me at the time. I know. If you're saying, dude, really, you didn't, it didn't. Yeah, I know. I get it. These things should have occurred to me at the time. Like I said before, I'm not claiming to be any kind of expert. But I look back and I see this guy standing at the door and he's kind of smiling. He's not saying anything. He's just kind of smiling over, just leaning by the door. But I thought he looked kind of familiar. But then I just kind of turned around and kept it moving. And then it was only like sort of after I left, I was kind of down the road at this point, quite far away at this point. I thought, wait a minute. Was that Jason Donovan? Because it will make sense. I think Jason Donovan lived in London at the time. So it would have made sense that, they're friends, I believe, like... I think they're related, or I don't know if they're related or not. But I think they're friends, or somebody cousin's daughter is a friend of. I'm not sure, but anyway, they know each other. So it would have made sense that if she's in London doing some gigs, she's staying with somebody she knows who lives in London. Makes sense, right? It makes sense. But it just did not occur to me that was probably Jason Donovan. So not only did I meet Stephanie McIntosh, could have met Jason Donovan as well. I mean, I didn't meet him. I saw him, possibly. Like I said, I can't say it definitely was him. For all I know, it could be just somebody that looks like him. You know what I mean? I didn't speak to him exactly. I just thought he looked familiar, and then kept it moving. But I did meet Stephanie McIntosh. She's an awesome person, and possibly saw Jason Donovan there as well. But hey. But anyway, Neighbours was a great show. I definitely have a lot of memories with Neighbours. And it's a shame that it is going. It is really sad that it's going. But like I said before, I stopped watching it back in 2008, and I guess I'm part of the reason why it's about to be taken off the air. So anyway, big up Neighbours, big up to all the stars it created. It's a shame to see it go. Hopefully I could try and watch the last episode though, because apparently they're going to try and get as many stars back for the last episode, and if they do. Boy, that could break some internets. I think that can break some internets, because you saw some of those names. If they can get even a small amount of those people to come back for the last episode, big things, man, big things. But let's move on. So this is TikTok now. TikTok videos get longer in challenge to YouTube now. So TikTok. You could post videos on TikTok that are a minute. No, so 30 seconds. I'm sorry, 15 seconds, 15 seconds, or 1 minute or 3 minutes. So that's the sections you have. 15, 1 minute, 3 minutes. And the 3 minutes one was quite recent as well, by the way, because before it's just up to 1 minute, and then 3 minutes was quite recently. But now they're saying they're going to introduce 10-minute videos. For the thing they already have, they kind of roll it out at the moment. And in a bid to challenge YouTube, which I guess on one hand makes sense from a business point of view, because you want to be the number one premier video sharing platform, social media, whatever in the world, right? And if YouTube are the big boys, if you want to roll with the big boys. No, that's how it goes. No. You want to bamba, you want to chill with the big boys, if you want to do that. So yeah, I get it from that point of view. I'm not sure this is actually a good idea though, because TikTok, from what I can tell at least, has excelled in that short video market, from the 15 seconds. I mean, even the 3 minutes. I mean, to be honest, I post on TikTok, and the 3 minutes, it can come in handy at times. But I feel like where it really excels is that, short, real quick content where, you got somebody miming a section from a song and making a joke out of it, changing the top context and that sort of thing. You could easily distract yourself for an hour or more watching these short clips on TikTok. And that's really feel like they've nailed that formula of addictivity when you're watching it, and the way it presents videos and recommends videos, and you just one after the other. And because they're so short, you don't realize the time go by. So they've really nailed that. Bumping it up to 3 minutes, that was a bit of a risk, but I guess it still works because it's still relatively short. 10 minutes though, and who knows, maybe this can work for them as well. But here's what I'm thinking is that, what are you going to do for 10 minutes on TikTok? Because TikTok has, like I say, built itself up on that short content where you mime over somebody, take somebody's sound and create something new out of it. You're not going to do that for 10 minutes straight, are you? You're not going to be miming. I mean, that's like 3 songs. You can mime the entire 3 songs. You're not doing that for 10 minutes. So it's different type of content, right? And that could be maybe more vlog based, right? It could be maybe more, because there's a lot of people on TikTok who do social commentary. So, things like that, that could be, gives you more time to talk about stuff, which is cool, by the way. I'm not saying it's not a cool thing. But then it kind of takes away that, I mean, if you're scrolling through TikTok and you come across a 10-minute video and you watch that 10-minute video, you're probably gonna just log off afterwards, I imagine, for most people, because you've just watched a 10-minute video. Whereas if you watch a 15-second video and then you could be there for 20 minutes and not even realize. And that's the formula that TikTok has really nailed, that real short, addictive way of scrolling through the platform, which, by the way, as I'm saying this, I recognize is a pitfall, because you could easily get distracted when you're supposed to be doing other things. I fell down that rabbit hole too. I know. But as from a business point of view, that's what you want. You want people on your platform as long as possible because, you serve them ads every now and then that's how they make their money. But then the way it is on TikTok, and speaking of money, by the way, and this is where another thing where I feel like TikTok might struggle with, because at the moment, they have a creator platform and some people can make some money out of it. But generally speaking, you don't get paid on TikTok. Some people do, or some people have some deals and things, but generally speaking, the average person doesn't get paid on TikTok. The only way they might make money is if they find their own sponsorship deal. It's not like YouTube where you might get money from ad revenue. That doesn't happen on TikTok for the most part. And for the most part, I guess people generally don't mind so much because you're just shooting a quick video, you're putting it up and you're not giving it it's not like you're spending like 5 days making a video and then just to get, it's not like that. Whereas if you're now asking people to potentially make 10-minute videos, that's more effort. Even if it is one person, one camera sitting down and talking for a longer period of time, it is still more effort. And how much can you get people to do that and still not take any ad revenue? Because sure, there are people that would do it, and there's plenty of people that do that on YouTube, right? Plenty of people do that on YouTube, make long-ass videos and don't get a penny from it, and they're fine with it. So I'm not saying those people don't exist. I'm saying how much can you get people to do that and still feel like I'm okay doing this and not making any money from it? And I think what could potentially happen is that you might get more people saying, hey, look, I don't need to be part of your creator platform, but I feel like I need to get something because I'm now making content. Because a 10-minute video is more effort, no matter which way you look at it. Whether it is one person, one camera, rambling for 10 minutes, it's still more effort than miming over a sound for a few seconds. It's more effort. And if you're asking people to put in more effort, eventually you're going to find some people are going to be asking for more back. In particular, money, right? And like I say, not everybody's like that. Not everybody's going to care. But when it comes to creatives, there's pretty much 2 types of creatives, where you have the type that they just want to be creative. They don't care about money, fame, and things like that. They don't care nothing like that at all. They just want to do the best they can. And then you have the people who they care more about the money, right? And let's be honest, probably more people like that. They'll do what they can do, but they want some money back. And then you have like the balance in between the people who, they want to be creative, but at the same time, they've got to pay bills too. Right, they've got to pay bills too, so you have a balance of and by the way, I'm not saying one's better than the other, one's right, one's wrong. You do what you feel is right for you, that's fine. But what I'm saying is that although there are people out there who would happily make whatever content and do the best they can and not care if it makes a penny at all, I feel like there are more people who would want something, and you see that on YouTube, because YouTube has been doing this. People eventually were like, I've been doing this for a while. I feel like I need to get something. Although YouTube kind of makes you earn the ad revenue these days, where you could have over 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, and they've done that now to kind of put people off who going to do all that ratchet stuff. Or that's the story they told. Whether it actually does that or not is debatable. But that's the reason behind it, the official reason behind it. The point is, eventually, people get to that point where it's like, okay, cool, I've been doing this for a while. I need some money now. And how long can you have people on TikTok who aren't in this creator, developer, whatever it is they call it, that are just going to keep doing these videos and be like, I think eventually TikTok are going to have the same issues that YouTube has when it comes to ad. And when it comes to ad revenue, it's like, what can you monetize? Where do advertisers want to put their content? And that's the whole thing that YouTube went through, the adpocalypse. That, I'm sure you guys know about that, where all this stuff was happening. The advertisers were like, oh, wait a minute, we didn't know this was going on. And let's be honest, there's some ratchet things on TikTok. If you've been on TikTok for any amount of time, you'll see some amazing things, some really talented people doing some cool stuff, but you also see some ratchet things as well. I'm just saying, it's there. Let's not pretend it doesn't exist. It's there. So how long before that becomes a problem? So it could be a good thing. It could be an amazing thing for TikTok, but personally, I feel like this might not be a good move. But again, like with anything, we'll wait and see. We wait and see. But anyway, let's move on now to the final topic and the main thing I want to talk about. The thing that I've been keeping you waiting, some hour, 14 minutes for? We'll talk about David Jaffe and the tweet that he made back on the... here we go. Back on the February the 22nd, 2002. So a few weeks ago. And the tweet is, for those listening, it says, hypothetical, colon. It doesn't say colon, there is a colon, after hypothetical. If you were playing and loving an open world game and there was an easy automatic platinum PS trophy for going into a minority field, and in parentheses is Jew, Black, LGBT, Muslim, etc., nightclub, and killing all the minority NPCs and non-playable characters, would you do it? So, and yes, we'll know that that's not exactly how platinum trophies work. We get that, but let's put that aside for the moment. The question is, if there was a trophy or whatever kind of reward you get in a game for going into a place, a nightclub or wherever it may be, and just killing all the people there, but the people happen to be, say all Jews or all Black people or all LGBT people, all Muslims, etc., people who are, marginalized in Western society, marginalized groups in Western society. If it was filled with one of those groups, maybe even all of those groups, and you had to kill them to get this trophy or to get this award in the game, would you do it? And as of, I guess the results have been in, but 42.6% said yes, 57.4% said no. So more people said no, they wouldn't. But yeah, this tweet got a little bit of backlash. There's one comment right underneath, says, seriously, WCF? This is highly offensive and you should know better. And then Mr. David Scott Jaffe replied, it would be offensive to me if I was advocating such horrible, awful behavior, but I tweeted the poll to see what percentage of gamers see choice in games as pure mechanics versus the fiction of the mechanics. Thus, I intentionally picked the worst, ripped from the headlines IRL scenario. But yeah, there were some people who did not appreciate this question. And so myself, I saw it and I was kind of like, I think I know what I do, but do I? But here's the thing, and this is what I really want to talk about, is this isn't a new question. This kind of question has been asked in various ways for a long time. And I don't want to speak for David Jaffe. I don't want to do that. But where I feel it's kind of going is effectively the idea of what line do we draw in a character creation where it becomes too close to being human. And that's probably a terrible way of explaining it. So let me try and clarify that a little bit. So, if you have let's say like Westworld, for example. Is it Westworld? Or yeah, I think Westworld did this. Or also everyone, humans. You know, you have these robots, right? And the robots look exactly like humans, but they're robots. But they look like humans. They talk like humans. They act like humans. You know, they have skin that feels like human skin, but they're robots. They're programmed to do what you say. But they're programmed in a way to, mimic human emotions and behaviors and things like that. At least the ones in humans were. Some of them could. I think like with humans, like some of them had like a chip that made them display more human and they could pass for human. But ultimately, they are robots. They are still property, right? So at what point does consciousness become a thing? Like, at what point do we say this is an object, but there's a line that's crossed where it's no longer just an object? And I feel like that's kind of where it's going. Like, I mean, we've all played games where, well, maybe all of us, but I'm sure a lot of us have played games where you just kill people without even thinking about it, right? You go into a room, you do whatever, you get told, oh, go kill these guys, and we don't give it a second thought. And we kill loads of people in video games. If you play GTA, that's pretty much all you do. You run people over left, right, and center, and that's not even task. That's not even a task in the game. It's just what you do, right? And it's a game, right? They're not real people. They are objects. And we understand that just because you do something in a game, that doesn't mean that that's who you are or what you believe in real life. And yes, I know there are some exceptions out there, some twisted minds out there, but generally speaking, just because you do something in a game, that doesn't mean that's what you want to do in real life. Ultimately, you're just playing a game and just doing whatever, right? So at what point does it become an issue? Now, like I mentioned GTA, oftentimes you're running people over in GTA, just running people in the street. They're just characters, right? There's nothing attached to them. There's no, you don't know who they are. They just run some guy, whatever, right? At most, you might know it's a policeman because they have a police uniform, or a prostitute because it's on the, because you do whatever and run them over and take your money back. But they're people. So what is the issue? Is the issue that we've assigned an identity to the people? And if so, why do some identities become a problem? Because ultimately, everybody has a prostitute is an identity, policeman is an identity, gangsters or gang members, are identities. And GTA, probably a really good example of this. Come out and think about it. But GTA, you have various gangs, and that's identity, right? So is that not a problem? Is that identity not a problem? But other identities are a problem. And if so, why? When we are still talking about characters in a video game, And I feel like that's kind of like where this kind of question is going, is trying to find out where that line is in your mind as to, okay, I can play a game and I can shoot at this particular sprite on the screen, and I can shoot at that sprite on the screen, and I feel no way about it. But because this sprite is marked as a Muslim, that's now a problem. I don't want to do that now because this one's a Muslim, or I don't want to do that because this one's a black guy. I don't want to do that because this one's a Jew. I mean, it's still a sprite on screen, and ultimately the identity is given to it by the person who designed the game. It's not that this person is actually that thing, because ultimately it's not a person. It is a set of pixels and binary code or whatever. I don't know, C++. I don't know what they do. whatever is code, right? It's a series of codes to represent something. Now, let me not diminish that, because I don't want to sound like it's just a game, because I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And I do believe that ultimately when any kind of art is created, it is created to elicit some kind of feeling or to deliver some kind of message, to create some kind of experience. And what would that experience be in a game that tasks you to do that? Well, I guess we won't know until it's made, if a game like this ever does get made. And it could very well be that they tell you to go into this club and shoot these people, but when you get there, it turns out the gun was empty, you couldn't do it anyway, and it just meant that you're a, and then that you get told off for even attempting it. Or maybe, I don't know, like the game designer, whoever decides to do this, there's all kinds of things you could do. But the point I'm making is that anytime you create something, you're doing it to give some kind of feeling, to express whether an idea or whatever. And hopefully you'd hope that the person playing that game receives that idea. Of course they might not, or they might interpret it in various different ways, and that's just part of the artistic process, that not everything's going to be interpreted the way the artist intended it to be interpreted, and that's fine. People have different experiences, and you ultimately get out of something what you put into something. So it's not always going to be what the artist intended is what you get out of it, but the artist is still trying to do something and try to create some kind of experience, to deliver some kind of message, or something like that, to say something in some way. And if we take this idea that, because we've attached a certain identity to it, that means we shouldn't we should stop playing the game at that point. Is that really the best way to go? Because then it's like, okay, what makes one identity in a video game more important than another identity in a video game, when ultimately it's all still lines of code, right? And I feel like that's where some people might be sort of missing, because it's very easy to kind of jump into the outrage of, you've mentioned, so especially if you are a Jew or a black person or a member of the LGBT Muslim, if you that and you see them, wait a minute, that's me. And perhaps that's part of it. Because it's now personal, it's now an issue. And maybe that's something to consider, that we've played these games for years and killed all kinds of people or sprites and code, really. We've got all kinds of characters in games and never gave it a second thought. And now it's like, they've attached an identity that I identify with. Now it's a problem. And I think that's an interesting thing to consider. Why does it become a problem when it is still characters in a video game? Now, again, like I said, I don't want to just sound like, it's just a game and we shouldn't think about it. That's really not what I'm trying to get at. What I'm trying to say is that this question it's not a new question. It's something that has been around for a while in various forms. And it's something that I feel like we do need to think about more as games do get more and more complicated and more sophisticated in their storytelling. At what point do we say, actually, we need to stop playing this game because they've gone too far? Or do we continue with this idea that says, well, you know what, it's ultimately still a game, and what we do in games doesn't reflect who we are in real life? At least not in that way. In a sense that any piece of art can reflect something about you in real life. It doesn't necessarily, I don't necessarily, what I mean though, it's not necessarily that direct. Just because you did something horrible in a game, that doesn't mean you're going to do horrible things in real life. That's what I mean. It's not always a direct reflection. And when you consider art is often very metaphorical in its approach to things, it's not always going to be just, you did this in a game, that makes you bad. It's not always going to be just that simple. And I think that's just kind of gets glanced over when we just go straight to this is a horrible thing. Because, it is a horrible thing. David Jaffe himself said, yeah, I know, that's just kind of the point. But that's not where the conversation ends. Because it's like, okay, yes, it's a horrible thing, but we've been doing horrible things in games for a long time. So if this is a horrible thing, is it more or less horrible than that? And if so, why? And these are questions that I feel like any kind of storyteller needs to be asked themselves. What makes something horrible to the person who is experiencing your story versus what makes something less horrible? We watch movies where the good guy would kill way more people than a bad guy, and we're like, all right, cool. But then one person dies and in a movie, and we're like, it's just so sad. And why is that? Because we can identify certain things with characters, and these are all deliberate things that storytellers do. You attach certain traits and characters and characteristics and things like that to a particular character, to a particular character. And you do that with the intention of making the audience feel for that person. So if that person dies, it's sad, right? And you feel bad, and you're like, oh, I don't, because you could see that person as maybe that's something that I could have done, or I would have done, or that's something that person reminds me of a friend of mine or a family member, and you see that in these characters that they create. But ultimately, it is still somebody dying, and we just watched hundreds of people die in that same movie. People getting blown up, legs. I mean, it's like, oh wow, wicked cool, action, right? Yeah, get him, yeah. But that's somebody to somebody. That person that was nobody to us is somebody to somebody else. And a good example of this, I think, is what it did with The Last of Us. Spoilers for The Last of Us, by the way, real quick, when you played it. But the first Last of Us game, by the time you get to the end of it, you go through the hospital, and you're trying to save Ellie, and you just kill a bunch of people along the way as you do so, and there's a bunch of like nameless people that you just mow down on your way to rescuing Ellie, and you do that, and it kind of ends with did he do the right thing, is he, and that kind of thing in that game. But then what's really interesting is when you get to The Last of Us Part 2, and you find out one of those nameless people that you killed on your way to rescuing Ellie was a doctor who was working on this vaccination, and he was working for this cause because he believed he was doing something good and trying to help humanity. He had a daughter, and his daughter aiming after he died, and saw that her dead father just killed in this guy's pursuit of anger, trying to save this other girl. And of course that leads into her own story. And so a person who goes from just as nobody that you don't even think about to, oh, this is somebody that is now the reason why another person is no longer here. Now, I won't get into too many spoilers for that game, but there is everybody is somebody. I think that's at least what I got from it. Everybody is somebody, and though we might not always know who they are or what they're about or how they live their lives or whether they're good, bad, and this, that, and the other, we don't know. And you can't be expected to know, of course, but you don't know. But they are still somebody, right? So again, back to this whole thing about being a Jew, Black, LGBT, Muslim, etc. Like, okay, we know this about the character because that's the description that they've been given. But the other characters that we just mowed down, we don't know the description. Doesn't mean they don't have one. In fact, like, what's that film? What's it called? The one with Ryan Reynolds. Free Guy. That kind of touches on that sort of concept a little bit as well. Like, these NPCs kind of have their own lives, so to speak, within the world. I mean, it's a bit limited because they're supposed to be gaming, but we don't give a second thought to what their, say, lives are. But everybody is somebody, and potentially everybody you see in the game, whether they've been given a name or not, potentially has their own backstory, right? But we still mow them now. We still kill them without second thought. So what makes one identity better, more important than another identity, or is it just the fact that we know the identity now? Is that what it is? Because we now know that this person has been described a certain way, does that now make it harder to pull that trigger? Does that now make it a wrong thing to continue playing this game? Even though we know that it's still a character that is lines of code that has been designed by a person to represent a thing, and you could shoot them down, start the game again, and be right back again. You're not killing anybody, right? You're just progressing in a game. It is an object that is in your way because you're trying to get to the end of the game, and in order to get to the end of the game, you need to go through that object. And this is what you need to do to get through that object, because it is an object, right? And no matter how the object is described or presented, it is still an object. So, at what point does that object become worthy of our love and affection and consideration? And why does it become that? Based on knowing an identity that has been attached to this object, even though that object isn't really a Jew, a Black person, a gay person, a Muslim, etc. It's an object. It can't be those things because it is not a person. It doesn't have beliefs. It doesn't have ethnicity. It is ultimately an object that has been designed to represent what that looks like to the human eyes. And then we attach these identities to it as a way of creating feelings to the person playing the game or experiencing the story. Right? But it is still an object. So yeah, I feel like this is something that we could be talking about for a long time to come. And I think as technology advances and, you know, people talking about robots and, you know, I mean, put it this way, like we have sex robots, right? Now imagine a robot that is designed for you to, have your way with it. It's a sex robot. You buy it because you want to have sex with it. Hey, I don't kink shame. So you do you, right? But it's a robot, right? And as the robot's designed, it looks like the robots in Westworld or humans. Like the robots look exactly like people. It's a person. It feels, touch, everything like a person, and it's designed to have its own kind of artificial intelligence as well. So because of that, it can mimic and act and talk and speak just like a human, right? But it is still a robot. It looks like a human, walks like a human, talks like a human, acts like a human, all of that. Indistinguishable from human behavior, but underneath it is still a robot, right? And you say, hey, robot, or I know, you're probably not going to call it robot, I know, Susie. Let's go with Susie. Susie, I want to have sex with you tonight. Now Susie the robot says, nah, I don't feel like it. Now it's a robot, doesn't even have feelings, but because it talks like a human, it's going to say, nah, I don't feel like it. But it's a robot. So is that malfunctioning? Do you turn it off and reset it? Or do you, because it acts like a human, talks like a human, looks like a human, feels like a human, do you respect the robot's decision to not engage in intercourse? Like which answer is correct? And I'm not sure, like you could say either, because on one hand you could say, well, just turn it off and do whatever you want. But that just sounds wrong, doesn't it? At least in my mind, it sounds wrong. And I don't know, I've just talked about these things being objects. But when I think about this, it just sounds wrong. Like, nah. But then at the same time, it is an object that is designed to pleasure you when you feel like it. And although it does all these things just like a human would, bottom line is that it's an object. So turn it off, do what you want, turn it back on again. What's the harm, right? Right? So why does it feel wrong? And I feel like this is where these types of questions go to. We know that it's just an object. We know that they are just characters that somebody else has assigned a particular identity to. We know it's just lines of code. We know that it is just a thing. We know that how you treat this thing doesn't have any real bear on how you treat real people in real life. We know that. We accept that. We understand that. But something about it just feels wrong. Well, at least to 57.4% of people, it just feels wrong. Maybe 42%. I don't care, whatever. Something about it feels wrong. And I think that's really where we need to have that discussion. Why does it feel wrong? What is it about it? And why do we disassociate these things with certain objects, but we attach these feelings to other objects? But yeah, that's where I think it's going. And that's what I wanted to express when I saw this particular tweet from Mr. David Scott Jaffe. But big up David Scott Jaffe, by the way. I can't imagine anybody listening to this doesn't know who he is. But for anybody who doesn't, well, I mean, I can imagine. I can imagine somebody not hearing it. Check out David Jaffe if you don't know about David Jaffe. He's got a YouTube channel and on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. He does some really cool stuff. Game designer, former game designer. He did the original God of War, which was one of my favorite games as well. So yeah, big up David Jaffe. And yeah, I like this question. It was definitely gave me some thought because I've played games where I've played. Was it in a Red Dead Redemption to was it 2 or 1? I can't remember. One of the Red Dead Redemption games where you kidnap a prostitute, tie her up, take her up, put her on a train track, and let the train run her over and you get a trophy for it. That's some sick shit, homeboy. Like, real talk. That's some sick shit. But I did it. I got the trophy. It's attached to my PlayStation account. Right? And I did, and like I say, it does. I don't believe that represents that. I don't feel like I've ever wanted to go kidnap a prostitute. I don't want to do that. I don't advocate anybody doing that in real life. But it's just a game. Well, let me not say it that way. In this context, you're just doing it in a game. So why is that okay for me to do it in a game? But then you have other things, and it feels like I know it's still just an object, and it just feels wrong. Maybe it is something that's changed within me from that time, because that was like years ago I played Red Dead Redemption. Even like No Russian as well, the Call of Duty one. I did that. But so it's been years, so maybe something's changed within me where I just see things a bit differently now. And as for myself, I think if I was playing a game like this, I mean, personally, I feel like I probably wouldn't even pick up a game like this to begin with if I knew it was there. That's how I kind of feel, really. If I knew something like this, what David Jaffe was saying in this tweet, if I knew it was there, I feel like I probably just wouldn't even play it to begin with. But let's say I'm playing, I don't know, Halo, right? And then all of a sudden, the weapon says, "Hey, Master Chief, well, we got to go into this construct and kill all the Black, gay, Muslim, Jewish people in there." Just random, just because. And if you don't do it, you can't complete the game. I mean, it'd be a pretty weird turn for one thing. But let's say that happens at some point. I mean, to be honest, I'll probably just do it. I think if it just came up, I'll think it's a weird thing, but I'll probably do it. It's because in a game, I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I say, there's levels to this. There's things that I know, and then there's things that I feel. And in fact, that's where it is. Maybe that's really where the crux of this is. There's things that you know, and then there's things that you feel. And those things sometimes compete with each other. I know it is a game. I know it is designed to elicit certain reactions and responses in me. But it is ultimately a game. I know all of that. But then that feeling of, what are you trying to say, huh? What are you trying to do? What's this about? That feeling, that initial reaction of this is what we know and what we feel aren't always the same things, and they do sometimes compete with each other. Maybe that's where this lies, somewhere in a war, if you will, between your thoughts and your feelings, or your knowledge and your feelings, rather, what you know and what you feel. Maybe that's where it lies. But hey, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Like I said, I feel like this discussion could go on for a long time, and certainly I want to try and get other people's thoughts on this as well if I can. But let me know what you think. Drop a comment, send me a tweet, all of that. But I believe, that is going to be where I end this podcast. This is the very first episode of Uncivilized Art. Run for just about an hour, 40-something minutes. We'll see how much I ramble on to end it. But thank you for listening. If you listen to part of it or all of it, I appreciate it. Share, tell your friends, and tell them to tell a friend, and that kind of stuff. Definitely going to need all the support we can get. It's a new venture. So any support, tweet it out, all that, hit at me on Twitter. I'm on Twitter, Insta, all that kind of stuff. Links in the description for all the things. But yeah, like, subscribe if you're on YouTube. You can rate it on Spotify. All of that, it'd be much appreciated. And yeah. Oh, I think did I say this already? I can't remember. But if I didn't say it already, I do plan on doing these at least once a week. But sometimes I might do a few more than that. Sometimes it might be a little bit less than that, depending on the week, and I'm gonna have to take a break sometime. Let's be honest, keep it. I'm gonna have to take a break sometime. So yeah, I do. Hopefully, at least once a week. That's the general plan. And the actual days may vary because other stuff, and you gotta do all that real life world stuff as well, right? So yeah, the days that it go live may vary, but yeah, make sure you got like the notifications and all that kind of stuff turned on, so you are notified as to when these get dropped. And yeah, that's gonna be it. So guys, thank you, appreciate you for tuning in, and until next time, peace out, y'all.